Hey, welcome back to Four Boxes. I appreciate you tuning in again with us. I know you don't tune in to YouTube, but thanks for watching the video in any case. Hey, I'd like to ask you to do me a favor. If you've been enjoying what we're doing so far and you plan on following along as I put out the information, please do me a favor, hit the like on the video and subscribe to the channel, as well as go into the notifications and tap the little bell, and that'll make sure you get a notification whenever we have a new video out. So, today, we're going to talk about the third box. If you've been following along in the four boxes, the first box is the soap box. The second box is the ballot box, where we vote for our officials. The third box is the jury box. Now, the jury box is the one most people wouldn't know anything about, or would know very little. So I'm going to go maybe a little more in depth than I have on the other ones, which people understand the basics of freedom of speech. People understand the basics of voting. So I just want to talk a little more, maybe a little more on the jury box. So how does a jury defend our liberty? Previous to America, of course, kings were the norm across the world. Before that, some version of a strong man. The idea of being judged by your peers and not by people selected by the king or selected by those in power was sort of a new thing at the time. There was some history of it, especially throughout British tradition and some other traditions, sort of informed our founders on how they wanted to do it. So the idea is you have judges, which are appointed by the government. You have prosecutors appointed by the government. Maybe even a crime you've committed was an offense against the government. Or, of course, it's the government that charges us when we commit crimes or are accused of crimes. And so the idea is you didn't want to be judged all from one side, the game set up against you, so to speak. So the idea was to put an impartial group in the middle, your peers. Peers meant those essentially equal to you. So in other words, if not nobles, not a group of nobles, but a group that were essentially somewhat a cross-section of society similar to you, along those ideas. You get the idea. So if those people didn't think what you did deserved your freedom to be taken away and go to jail, then they could put a stop to it. They're a buffer zone in between the accused and the government, the accuser. So the idea is, in the four boxes of liberty, if you've got a government that is encroaching on your liberty, threatening your liberties, the idea is, the first box, of course, is to speak out, spread the word, create more public opinion in your favor, and get more people to, the voices grow louder and louder to influence the government. The second one, the ballot box, of course, we vote for those that will secure our liberty. We vote against those who will threaten our liberty. So the jury box, here's how the jury box works. Let's assume your voice isn't being heard. Let's assume the government officials you voted for either didn't do what you thought they would do, or you lost in who you wanted. You lost the election in your choices, but now you've got a government, or you've got government officials passing laws that you believe are anti-liberty. For instance, the ones that always come to my mind are environmental laws, EPA type laws, or some things along that line, where they're very anti-liberty, anti-private property, which is basically within the concept of the pursuit of happiness. So if they're threatening your liberties, the idea is we need at least 1 out of 12 people everywhere in our society, 1 out of every 12 people, to understand a concept called jury nullification. To nullify something is to make it, null and void, to make it of no effect, that nothing happens. And so the idea is you've got one person on a jury that understands liberty. That person says, I'm not taking the freedoms away from this individual that's accused, because the law that he's being accused of breaking shouldn't be a law. It's anti-liberty. And we want to stay away from anti-liberty, even in things that, every law has a good intention behind it. They don't pass any laws they think are bad for us. They pass laws as a nanny state, to take care of us, to do what they believe is good for us. But what's best for us, what's best for America, and what's best for the world is your liberty. Not just liberty in general, but people in their own best interests, coveting, using, and exercising liberty in their own self-interests is what made America great. So we don't want them to pass laws that take away our ability to live freely. Freedom and liberty is what made this country what it was. So in the interests of liberty, we want to nullify their laws. So basically they pass a law that we believe is unjust or anti-liberty or encroaches upon liberties. then a juror, 1 out of 12, because they're unanimous in criminal cases, one juror could just refuse to convict. Then the person walks out acquitted, or a hung jury and there's a retrial. But the idea is, if we spread the word through box number 1 and we vote in box number 2 for legislators that will only pass laws in the interests of our liberty, in expanding our liberties, and in enforcing and buttressing up our liberties, if that's who we pass, that's who we vote into office, then supposedly we would assume there'd be laws passed that would be in our interest of liberty. But if they don't, we've got jury nullification. So then if you've got a tyrannical government passing anti-liberty laws, you've got at least one in a jury box saying, no, not going to do it, not going to do it. And eventually that law ceases to be enforced. If not, maybe they almost never take them off the books, but they do cease to enforce them after a while. So that is the third box. There's a lot of history behind jury nullification in modern legal theories, modern legal circles, in court cases. They instruct the concept of jury nullification out of the jury. However, in my opinion, this is an inalienable right. It is something cannot be taken away. As long as there are juries, as long as that part of the Bill of Rights exists and we're having them, that is the right of a jury to simply nullify and refuse to convict. So don't let anybody tell you any different. I don't care how many lawyers tell you, how many judges tell you, because trust me, there's a lot of history behind this. And of course, the legal profession, the government doesn't want you, and this is not conspiratorial. I mean, there's whole opinions, court opinions written on this subject. They don't want the average citizen making these kinds of decisions. They want to tell you exactly how you should decide a case and give you 1,000 instructions as a jury, and then you must follow their template. And that's just not true. That's not what juries were designed to be in America. Should they understand the law they're either convicting or acquitting on? Of course, but that's not my point. My point is, if it's anti-liberty, you stand your ground and you stand for everybody's liberty by standing for the accused's liberty. So that's that is box number 3, the jury box. And we'll talk more about that later when we talk maybe some current events in terms of laws passed or laws being enforced by the government, etc. So we'll bring that one up occasionally. That one is not talked about much, but it is very, very, very important for the average American to understand. I will never serve on a jury due to my background, due to things I've done in life. I worked in the legal field, so forth, and things I do. I would always be preempted right out of a jury. But if we get the average American understanding jury nullification, they can't preempt us all out of juries. So the idea is spread the word, use your boxes, vote in the right people, and if you're on jury duty, make sure you defend liberty first, and make sure other people know about it too. Anyways, thanks a lot for tuning in again. Please like, please subscribe, and I'd love it if you would set up notifications for yourself so that every time I post a video, you're in on it. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.